Call of Duty Nazi Zombies is the most disappointing thing since.
Mr. Rothstein, referring to zombies as Nazis is both politically incorrect and also partially inaccurate after the release of Keto der Toten. It'll be much better to just say zombies.
See, that's all you have to say. Call of Duty Zombies is the most disappointing Nazi-themed thing since Donald Trump's presidential campaign. But while people like Donald Trump will never hold office, Call of Duty Zombies will reign atop for at least another 4 years, until Call of Duty Ghosts 3 comes out, which will be packaged with Modern Warfare 3 Remastered, of course.
Mr. Rothstein, Donald Trump is actually the.
Shut up, you racist nutjob. Speaking of nutjobs, have you watched that recent interview with Jason Blundell? The one where he teases the community with his trolling? I mean, I guess it's every video with him, isn't it?
I'm afraid that I can't say anything right now.
His trolling act is completely tired. Speaking of tired, have you recently played Call of Duty Zombies? I mean, you have so many choices. Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3, and Infinite Warfare. Since 2010, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 and Ghosts are the only Call of Duty games not to have a zombies mode in it. I mean, that's pretty great, right? Or is it? Is there an oversaturation of flesh eaters, not only within the gaming industry, but in the entertainment industry as a whole? Is Zombies a good game, or just some Saturday night schlock? Is there an interesting story to be told, or is it just a bunch of nonsense? Is there any value in playing high round games, or is it a big waste of time for low-life scum? What about those secondary modes like Grief Returned? And whatever happened to good old Jimmy Zielinski, and why did he have to hit the bricks and beat it? What does the relaxing end look like? All of this and so much more will be discussed. So let's get this started quickly, because I have a warrant on my head after shooting Rambo the Hack back in October. Some of you may ask, what credentials do you have to speak about zombies? Well, I'm a taxi driver in NYC. They made me get some stupid eco-friendly taxi. And I tell you, driving one of those things is a lot more difficult than running some stupid circle while circle jerking my droogies in party chat. Skype call. Discord call. Whatever the hell you people's talking today. Must be slipping in my old age, not keeping up with this technology. Back in my day, we had to yell out our windows when we wanted to talk to somebody. That reminds me, John Lennon was once in the back of my taxi and told me something that really stuck with me throughout my life. Well, that was until I had my brain transplant in '78. But it was something to the effect of, you don't need to know how to cook a steak in order to criticize the cooking of a chef's steak. I don't even know what that means. So I'll present you with some opinions and let you decide. But my opinions are right. So let's get started, my droogies. Number 1. The rise and eventual fall of the Undead. I'm back and I'm badder than ever. Now, you may ask, how did such a small game mode in World of War grow into something so much bigger? Well, the pudding is in the proof. Zombies had been growing increasingly popular just a few years before the release of World at War. I'm no connoisseur of the Undead, but I know that they've been around for a while. Of course, you can't mention zombies without the grandfather of them all, Rob Zombie. I mean George A. Romero. You know, the guy in Cold the Dead who sounds like he was voiced by some intern at Treyarch during the intro cutscene. He made some of the best zombie movies ever made. Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, and Land of the... Oh. And while these were instrumental in the genre of zombies, along with other films, you could just look at the year 1985 alone for some classic films, it wasn't really until the turn of the century that zombies started to become a staple in mainstream culture. One of the key flicks key to this change was 28 Days Later. You know, the movie with the infected that look like they belong in Exo Zombies? Just a year later, the Walking Dead comic books were launched by Robert Kirkman, who by an astronomical coincidence had the same opening to his graphic novels as the movie 28 Days Later did. And it wasn't until 2010 that Frank Darabont, director of some great adaptations such as Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile, turned to the storytelling medium of television to create the epic melodramatic soap opera comedy known as The Walking Dead. This of course coincided with the release of Black Ops 1, which of course had a zombies mode in it. And as mentioned earlier, almost every COD since then has had some sort of zombies mode in it. They will continue to milk this cash cow until they decide it has no more milk in it. I mean cash. So are you ready for another 10 years of Call of Duty zombies? Not only is there a complete oversaturation of zombies in Call of Duty titles, but the entire entertainment industry is oversaturated with zombies as well. This includes other video games, movies, TV shows, and whatever the hell else. It reminds me of ice cream. Sure, I love some good old Jamocha almond fudge from Baskin Robbins, but if you give me 20 cards of it to eat at once, am I really gonna feel like eating it all? Well, maybe, but it's only because of the wonderful chocolate ribbons and roasted almonds. And the poor storyline and repetitive gameplay of COD Zombies are not those same ingredients, not by a long shot. You're not even in the same league. Delicious. Number 2, bigger is not always better. People many a time fall for the pretense that bigger is better. One of the only cases where this is true is in regards to Johnson's baby powder formula. This bad boy has talcum powder which is widely used to help keep skin dry and prevent rashes. However, when used on the wrong part of the body, it can give you cancer. So think twice before using it. I always need a big bottle of this shit before I start a high round game. I don't want my fingers slipping when I try to do a 360 revive. But playing zombies also gives me the cancer. Anyway, Treyarch and other game developers think that the only way to upgrade from their previous creation is to make the next thing bigger. Whether this entails more square feet, a cluster of pointless visuals, more doors, flying debris to clear, more box locations, more weapon variants and upgrades, etc.
I think the biggest challenge is the one we set for ourselves, which is trying to outdo our previous maps. Try to impress our fans, and every time they expect something, we need to come up with something much bigger. That's pretty much how we ended up on the moon, because,
For instance, the Pack-a-Punch always had more features being added with each installment in the Black Ops series, just for the sake of adding it, really. People need their custom camos and whatnot, I guess. Then from map to map, you had different ways of obtaining said machine, from gathering parts, to pressing X on certain sites to have some pointless animation occur, to grabbing parts, to something with a dragon, to... Wait a second, why is there a dragon in Zombies? Oh, I know why. Jason Blundell and the crew at Treyarch have been watching a little bit too much of Game of Thrones. And Blundell also was a friend of Pacific Rim for including giant robots in Origins. And this thing in the wall? Oh, don't mind that, that's just a rehash of Mob of the Dead. The layouts of the map also changed. They went from claustrophobic maps with only a few purchasable doors to vast areas of nothingness which offer all the same opportunities.
And the first thing we thought of was, well, Zombies is always about tight corridors and confinement and blocked in and trapped. And so we thought, well, let's literally reverse the model and say, you're going to be outside and in bigger environments, and you find places to go in and explore.
Camping also became a lot easier with the wonder weapons, which you could just stand still with. And for the casuals, Double Tap 2 allowed them to camp until round 40 with ease, just using standard wool weapons. First rooms also became a lot more shittier. Not that Treyarch designed the starring areas of these maps with the specific intention of catering to this particular community, but the first room challenges became a complete mockery by the time Black Ops 3 rolled around, with the availability of gobblegum machines, decently sized areas, and even a box at times. I'll touch my briefs on this later on. Briefly touch on this. Number 3. Jimmy Zielinski and Jason Blundell, A Tale of Two Fools. When it comes to movies and even games, sometimes the behind-the-scenes workings of the production can be just as intriguing as the final product. I think this most certainly applies in regards to the power struggle of sorts at Treyarch, and the firing of Jimmy Zielinski, and the rise of the once-tamed Jason Blundell. Now, it's worth noting that I liked Jimmy Zielinski before it was popular. I even made a gamer tag of his name back in 2011. I also knew him pretty well. I'd even go as far as considering him my home dog, except for this one occasion. One time, Jimmy Z got a cat stuck up his ass. It was embarrassing and all, but the next week, he did it again. Different cat, same results, complete with another trip to the emergency room. So, I run into him a week later in the mall, and he's buying another cat. And I says to him, "Geez Louise, Jimmy, what are you doing? You know you're gonna get this cat stuck up your ass too, right? Why don't you knock it off?" And then he replied to me, "Mr. Rothstein, how the hell else am I supposed to get the gerbil out?" Jimmy Z was a weird guy, I tell you. Black Ops 2 was pretty successful. Possibly Jimmy had his contract terminated because he focused more on the gameplay than the story. And the problem at that point was that he was making shitty gameplay, so that couldn't compensate for the lack of the story elements that the fanboys craved. So, let's take a look at some of the differences between their work, and we will award Jason and Jimmy with either an X or a check. Who made what maps early on anyways? Who knows? I always hear that Blundell was behind Doris. I guess that's a classic, but we don't really have much information on those older maps, do we? So I'll be fair and give Blundell a check. But Jimmy then made all the other BO1 maps, so a check for him too. Now for Jimmy Z. Transit. These characters. Shit leaderboards.
Usually we don't have a whole lot of time to make these maps, so it's all happening simultaneously. So
Sometimes
we used
as
it.
little as 3 weeks.
Disgruntled employee. Buried. Okay, hear me out on this one. I think this map is pretty terrible, but oftentimes you'll see casual players praise it as some sort of masterpiece of sorts. I have an interesting theory regarding it, which I haven't heard anyone mention ever. Since it was Jimmy Z's final map, and he might have known he was getting kicked to the curb by Treyarch, he probably says something like, "What's the point in any case? I might as well make a map solely based on fan service so that I could look like some sort of community hero. A wonder weapon with unlimited ammo, ability for this retard who doesn't belong in a western setting map to create buildables, craft power-up items, make the box be in one location, hold a crawler, and more. Also having a creepy out-of-place mansion with tons of witches. Oh, and they give you free perks for making it through because it's such a challenge, you know. Also have a pub for the booze drinkers and a mace because why the hell not? You have the AN-94 on the wall. You could create your own locations for world buys with the chalk. Time bombs that go back in time. A perk that gives you ammo. Monkey bombs returning. A bank. A weapon locker. Tons of areas to camp with the overpowered weapons and buildables. Also throw in some grief in turn for old time's sake. I can see through your phony bullshit, Jimmy. Big X for you. As for Jason Blundell, Reisentraha, is this a collection of Blundell's best hits? And by best I mean worst. Dogs and Dragons on the Wall, Return of the Panzer Ass, 4 bows like 4 staffs, constant trolling of the community. Sellout comic book with revisionist history on shitty characters. Blatant overuse of Lovecraftian elements as shouts of evil which failed to capture the horror and intrigue of his stories. Alex E. Large. In regards to setting up for a map, why does it have to be so time-consuming and convoluted? I want to use a note-taker for writing a review, not for setting up Pack-a-Punch again the Wonder Weapon. I mean, it could be fun to complete these quests at times. Like on Mob of the Dead, for instance. It was a bit of fun the first few times. Utilizing the afterlife mode to complete as much shit as possible within a certain time period. But then you would have to collect pieces over time if you wanted to Pack-a-Punch again, and then go through some stupid animation. Pass. Just give me a basic teleporter like Kino, where you link 2 pads with a brief cooldown period. Some stuff is pretty retarded in BO1 also, like needing everyone to step on some stuff at the same time on Shangri-La. Yeah, good luck trying to do that with randoms. But yeah, it's way too complicated. Some kids are coming home from a long day of school, or older gents are coming home from work. They want to kick back and relax, kill some zombs. But then they load up some BO3 zombies, and they need to hold crawlers, refer to pictures, notes, videos, and more. Then they have the crawler die, they're all unprepared and shit, so they end up just dying before unlocking the Pack-a-Punch on round 10. All the while spending about an hour trying to set up everything. They don't want to think about playing a mindless shooter. They want to relax and kick some zombie ass. Where was I? Oh yeah, Big X for Blundell. So yeah, why did Jimmy get kicked out again? Fired, resigned, laid off, what difference does it make? The bastard was humiliated. He even has his own website now, which is actually pretty sad, because he has to cling to his past success with zombies, and claim some petty things like, highest rated and one of the best selling DLC zombie maps to date, Moon. Who the hell said it was the highest rated map? some internal polls with the lapdogs, and maybe it was the best-selling DLC. I don't know. That's more attributed to the fact that it has 4 classic maps that many users didn't have prior access to, for no additional costs. You ain't fooling anyone, Jimmy. Then Jimmy also has some links to Transit for some reason.
Don't hold out too long. If things look like they're getting rough, get out of there.
Number 4, Grief and Turned. Let's talk a little bit about the often forgotten game modes of Grief and Turned in Black Ops 2. Turned was a concept that floated around since World at War. It's something the community was very interested in as well since then. I mean, who doesn't want to play as a zombie in a defense game? Anyways, the execution was terrible to say the least, and the mode only returned once more in Jimmy Z's Buried DLC. Turned on Buried was also accompanied by the last appearance of the game mode Grief.
You guys, if you have zombies, if you have friends that you play zombies with, start your zombies clans right now, because we're going to have versus modes. And I think it's going to be awesome.
I guess Grief wasn't just a Jimmy Z thing, because it also appeared in Blundell's Mob of the Dead DLC. Grief was actually pretty cool on this map, but the majority of the community played Grief on the Green Run maps, town and farm that is. There were tournaments held for these maps, and it had its own cult following for the most part. But the problem is that Treyarch didn't really care for this mode, and whatever elements existed which made it competitive or good for a small specific audience were ultimately unintentional and difficult to reproduce, as evidenced by Grief on Burrow, and even Subblock to a large extent. I mean, the community had tournaments with the no magic option enabled, started at either round 15 or round 20, or if they did have the magic feature enabled, then they would agree not to hit the box or use the pack-a-punch machine. Definitely not what Treyarch had in mind when they made the mode, and for that reason, they didn't really know what the hell they were doing. It's most definitely unpopular with the general masses, as evidenced by population numbers in lobbies, and the now co-studio head definitely didn't care for it.
Because Black Ops 2 did have Grief and Turn, and I'll admit they didn't quite work. To me, they felt almost like beta stages of a game mode.
Yeah, I am a huge advocate of extra game modes. I have not found a way, and I'm glad that you put it that way, because I've not found a way of bringing something through that I've been happy with yet.
So don't get your hopes high with a Grief mode returning. First of all, it's not likely since Blundell isn't the biggest fan. And second, you probably don't want it to make another return because it was a happy accident to begin with, and it couldn't be replicated even if they tried their darnest. I recently had a Skype call with Grief legend QP Derek QP. Here's what he had to say about it.
Oh jeez, where's my controller? Oh my gosh. Okay, here it is. Come on, load up. The stupid app takes forever.
Hey, there we go. What do you know? What do you say, QP? I'm just chilling in my Wildhood beach house recording a review, and want to know your thoughts on Grief returning.
Listen up, Mr. Rothstein. I've thought long and hard about this. Grief is coming back, and that's all there is to it, you fruitcake.
Watch the teeth, you hack fraud. Number 5. Easter eggs and story. So, where do I even start with Easter eggs? Fans love the unknown, the mysterious, the creepy stuff that you include with abstract meaning. They love theories too. That shit fascinates them. And all this can be great when in small doses, and when it comes second to the primary focus of the game. In this case, the survival defense aspect. But now the interviews and teasers focus too much on the stupid storyline crap that half the people don't even care about. Or the force-fed information through mumbo-jumbo, voodoo-spewing YouTubers who don't even agree on what's happening. Who the hell's in charge of this bullshit anyways? Oh. Treyarch made up the story along the way for the sake of making a story. I think they had an intern back in Doris making up a bunch of hogwash. Can Treyarch invite me as an intern? And pay me too while they're at it? I'm really good at writing dialogue for the characters, or at least as good as the current staff.
He's still alive. I fucking hope so. This subject will one day wreak havoc across the entire universe. He cannot be allowed to live.
This wasn't how it was supposed to go. We were supposed to secure the package and be in and out clean. Instead, the whole thing's been one disaster after another. I should never have trusted you, Richthofen. Wait! If someone's gotta take him out to save the universe, then it should be me that does it.
Good to see you, Tank.
Really, when you think about it, there's no reason to tell the story that they do except for the sake of telling it, with what can laughingly be called a plot. After all, it's pretty difficult to communicate a narrative when you play a survival game with limited cutscenes, and with a lot of quotes intended to be badass one-liners. Obviously they changed this as they went along. Who gives a shit about Richtofer and what he wants to do? The characters just changed with the direction of the wind, and were nothing more than archetypical jackasses.
Pretty easy. The playable characters are who they are because we don't have cutscenes to explain who they are. So we came up with the most basic stereotypes possible. So the second that somebody hears 2 or 3 lines, they're like, okay, I'm the drunk Russian, I get it.
A large contributor to the story might be the fact that people really enjoyed these cartoon characters. Why did they like them, you may ask? Because they were around since the nostalgic moments gamers had in World at War, and they also spoke about stuff that people cared about. You know, vodka, meatbags, katanas, and clavicles. Just because gamers enjoy these characters on the most superficial of levels, doesn't mean that they should do some extensive ontology explaining their struggles and helping Richtofen obtain the summoning key so he could do something with it. Stick it up your ass, why don't you? Why do they even trust him? Why are there 2 versions of each character? Why is Dr. Monty now a character with major implications when he wasn't even relevant for 8 years? Why are there multiple dimensions and universes? Or is there? My boy says that you need to view it as a broken mirror. Yeah, I broke my mirror trying to make sense of this stupid bullshit.
Show of hands, how many people learned Morse code from Call of the Dead?
I could go on, but all this doesn't matter because they just invent new rules and alter old ones as time progresses, in an attempt to make sense of a nonsensical story.
That the story for zombies didn't always exist, but the community started to pick up on little hints of things in the game, and there were some intentional Easter eggs that were put around, but there were also some ones that we didn't actually place that the fans started to have these conspiracy theories around. Just what does that mean? You know, and they would fight with one another about what things meant.
But we saw that kind of interest going, and it was like, we should actually do more of this stuff deliberately.
Are zombies a horror story? No. It's a supernatural fantasy aimed at the lowest common denominator. Mindless little kids who gobble information from YouTubers like I gobble ice cream. I used to play zombies as young blood myself, but only recently did I realize how much of the community comprised of small 12-year-old children. It's quite alarming, actually. I wonder if they have a crush on Samantha. Then they religiously follow some YouTuber, doesn't matter who, because they have a lot of options, and could get all their information from them. Because, of course, there's no way they could make sense of the story themselves. And even the people with hundreds of thousands of subscribers can't always come to the same conclusion regarding a plot point. I don't want to hear any of that, oh, it's your own interpretation baloney. Because that's for 12-year-olds. Oh. And I'm not saying some people are wrong when it comes to their understanding of the story. Maybe that's the story Treyarch intended to tell. But it doesn't mean that it's good, or by any means a story that's worthwhile to tell either. My vocal cords need a rest. Maybe I'll watch some 10 o'clock news while I'm at it. Easter Egg Joe, why don't you take over?
Here's my top 5 things I totally love about Black Ops 3 Zombies. Number 1, we got the Easter eggs. They're just like the greatest story since Memento. Whenever my friends say, let's watch a movie at the theater, I just say, nah, I load up some Setsuba no Shima instead with my boys and plant some seeds. Number 2, we got the Apothicon Servant. This is like totally awesome, and when you upgrade it, it becomes more awesomer. Yeah. It's way better than that stupid Thunder Gun. Who uses that crap anyway? No one. That's who. Clocking in at number 3, we got Dr. Maxis. His beard be looking totally awesome in that Revelations cutscene. Then we get to see him as the Maxis drone, a reference to Origins, which was the second bestest map behind.
Shut up, Easter Egg Joe. It's time for 10 o'clock news.
Our top story tonight is the town's first double shooting in nearly a month. New Jersey native Mr. Rothstein is suspected to have shot 2 men recently, New York residents Seth Richmond and Rambo the Hack. Grief and anger have filled the neighborhoods where they live, as both victims are said to be in critical condition. Authorities are on the hunt for Rothstein, who they believe to be armed and extremely dangerous. Police do have a picture of the suspect.
Gosh, thank you, Dirk. Must have ratted me out.
And are said to have received an anonymous tip on the possible whereabouts of his location. In other news, a middle-aged, bearded man was rushed to the emergency room earlier this morning after reportedly getting a cat stuck
Alright,
up
enough of
his...
this stupid news. A bunch of sickos on this, I tell ya.
Number 6. High rounds for high people. Getting high rounds on zombies is no longer a demonstration of skill. I don't know when it stopped being that, or if it ever was to begin with. I guess when certain basic yet essential strategies were being invented, it must have taken some skill or creativity on a certain level. But those days are long gone. Many players who play high rounds will probably tell you that they continue to utilize strategies to the max potential. But all they're doing is progressively adding slight variations to the original strategy and groundwork that was laid for many years before. It's become much more of an endurance test, and also a connection test for co-op, rather than a display of raw skill. Some call the strategy training, circling, hoarding, figure eighting, leading, abusing spawns, and much more. I call it easy. It's the type of thing where you could just watch someone play a game on YouTube or Twitch, and then nearly perfectly replicate it on your own time. This is why so many people have high rounds nowadays. The secret is out. It's not very challenging. Back in the day, people didn't upload or stream often, so there wasn't much exposure for certain strategies. But now all the tricks and tips are essentially released to the mass audience. Round 50, round 100, even round 200 is no longer special as it once was because so many different people are able to reach the same goal. It's called evaluation. It's sort of like currency in America. When you're a little kid, you see a $100 bill, you say, hey, that's really cool. I'd like to have a Benjamin in my pocket. I'd be the coolest kid in the block. But then time passes and you realize that they're not hard to obtain, and that many other people have sacks of cash in their wallet too. Sort of like zombies if the analogy was lost. While high rounds becoming easier, along with the fact that some people didn't have the time or connection for lengthy games, First Room challenges gained popularity in late 2011. But eventually people mastered First Rooms as well. People mastered First Rooms so much over time that they just became like mini high round attempts in themselves. Even the same strategies such as spawn control and strategic hoarding strats were used to gather the zombies, with minimal improvisation. It's quite ironic that the things that the First Room players rebelled against were the same exact things that they indulged in some years later. Also, it seems as if Treyarch doesn't give a rat's ass about the community, apart from the Easter egg fanatics, as seen with some of the BO3 maps which crash consistently later in the game. There are important questions that you need to ask yourself at the end of the day. Why do I even play high rounds? What is the point of playing? Is it fun? Is it worth it? Is it challenging? What am I accomplishing? Am I high? Is zombies good for my health? Also, nothing can mean much in high rounds when there's a bunch of glitches, mods, exploits, gray area, and general brokenness on many to all the maps, which leads me to my next point. Number 7. Glitches, mods, exploits, gray area, and general brokenness. There's too much gray area when it comes to deciding what's legitimate and what's not. Back in 2011, it was more or less a black and white situation where you either used glitches to get far in the game, or you played legitimately. Then for the few players who played really long games, there was the issue of taking a sleep break, or as it was known, sleep glitching. Sure, everyone needed their doctor's recommended sleep, but a lot of games got cut short because players didn't want to resort to an exploit to get to sleep. The window trick where you held X or square on the window barrier with a zombie behind it wasn't utilized until much later on, but I guess that's an issue too. There's too many glitches, mods, hacks, tricks, tips, exploits, loopholes, and secrets to know what the hell was what. People just made up their own rules that made them look like legitimate players for the most part, while also taking advantage of some exploits for their own convenience, such as glitching out the astronaut on Moon. Something like glitching out George A. Romero on Call of the Dead is not fair, because the exploit isn't as clean or crisp, or because George has some positives to offer when being on the map, such as being easier to kill than the astronaut and providing a wonder rough drop when killed. So it doesn't apply here. I think games with so much gray area can be overcome when you have a small community who can come to a consensus with minimal bloodshed. But the zombie community grew much larger over time, and new people had different self-serving interests, while others used a bit of the old rationale and questioned old group thinking. Maybe if there was a zombie Supreme Court or Council to decide on matters regarding the game, it would work. No, actually that wouldn't work because then people would make their own shitty site with their own rules if they were upset with a decision. Or actually you might have someone missing a few minutes of footage, possibly intentionally, but maybe unintentionally. Or a judge would be paid off to vote in favor of legislation to legitimize widespread modding. On a similar note, maybe someone has mods that are undetected for the most part, and which are difficult to trace. Then you have people's game crashing on random rounds, receiving random errors, and having their game reset at different times compared to others. There's also a few things that I want to mention, but at the same time, I'm going to be talking about them all at once, alright? Here we go. I'm Undead and just take 85 down for the heck of it. The bucket provides non-existent, and afterlife is a brilliant idea or something. Oh, what a terrible mistake that was. Because I forgot to talk about the differences between PC and console. And you can be moral of the story, nothing means nothing in zombies. Number 8. Hey Treyarch, just hire Bruce Campbell already. This may seem really random, but I was asked by my good friend Bruce Campbell to petition for his appearance in a Treyarch title. Yeah, I know, he was a playable character in a couple of the Advanced Warfare maps, but who are you kidding? That shit don't count. Obviously Treyarch are big fans of his work. He's probably most famous for his role as Ash Williams in the Evil Dead trilogy. In some Black Ops 1 maps, Dempsey has a few lines stolen from the movies. Or should I say homaged? Or homaged. No, I'll say stolen.
I'll swallow your soul!
So anyway, shit. What was that noise?
Mr. Rothstein, I think you're paranoid. It's probably just the wind.
Paranoid? I'm not paranoid. All my fears are real.
Zombies. Groovy.
Also, the ending of Revelations, which many people hated, closely resembles the ending of Evil Dead 2, which involves the character fighting the dead, then being sucked into a vortex and transported to medieval times, where armored knights cheer him on as a hero. They even have a picture of the characters being prophesied as heroes in Revelations, just like there's a picture of Ash being prophesied to save the world from evil in the movie. Also, the Book of the Dead, or Necronomicon, plays a vital role in both the ending of Revelations and Evil Dead 2. The map The Rising Draha has all major elements borrowed from the third movie in the Evil Dead trilogy, called Army of Darkness. Again, set in medieval times now, there is a castle, the undead, and the appearance of a skeleton army.
I'm a sucker for medieval castles. That's where we're going in The Rising Draha.
Surprised they never added a chainsaw to the game in one of those supply drops. Maybe it'll be in that stupid Zombies of Spaceland DLC, which rips off Evil Dead yet again with a cabin in the woods.
Hi y'all, here's my Blu-ray collection. Gonna show you my Evil Dead trilogy. Oh, don't worry about the gloves, that's just a homage to my favorite YouTuber. Over here we got the epic Evil Dead, that's the original. Then we got the television show over here. And over here we got my favorite of the series, Evil Dead 2. Let's crack this bad boy up and see what's inside. What? What is this crap?
Number 9. When most of the stuff in the game becomes rendered useless after a certain point, it kinda has an effect on the overall experience and ceases to be much of a defense game. One of the biggest issues I ever had with the Call of Duty Zombies mode is that many of the things of the game, such as the weapons and even parts of the map, become unnecessary as the game progresses. If you're a little confused by what I mean, let me speak slowly for you, because sometimes I'll slur my speech. 95% of the mystery box weapons simply do not work as you get to the later rounds. Now, this might seem like some customary stuff since it's something players have had to deal with for over 8 years, but it's not something that you should be accustomed to. It's actually really bad, and why COD Zombies shouldn't nor can't be taken seriously by other elitist gamers. You see, it's one of the reasons why the game becomes so repetitive. You're literally walking in circles with the same weapon the whole time. Sometimes you'll have a secondary for backup situations or for mobility, but there's no strategy involved in any facet of the game really. Deciding where you're going to do your circling, training, or whatever is predetermined when you enter the game. It's a strategy you see on YouTube, and then you decide you need to replicate it yourself. Then you get the weapons that you need to get, and you already know what you're looking for in the box when you hit it. You never say, geez, I got a G11, I might have to deal with it for a while. No, there's no dealing with it. It simply does not work later in the game. For example, on Ascension, you'll get the Thunder Gun, maybe the crossbow, and some Gersh devices. Then just hit the box for hours on end to recycle those same weapons when you run out of ammo. Every other non-wonder weapon on the game becomes completely useless, even the ray gun of course. Also the areas on the map become non-essential. Have you ever been on this room on Kino? Or chilling at this hut on Shino Numa? Or drinking some Deadshot Tequila at top of the lighthouse and enjoying the scenery? Well, how about 5? Now listen to this, you can just run on the top floor of 5 the entire time and use the traps. No weapon is even required. None. Not only does this problem of only certain things being effective at certain rounds cause repetitiveness, but it also causes problems on maps where there's no traps or effective wonder weapons. A map like Undead Solo has never had a solo player make its round 100. Why? Because there's nothing good to kill the zombies with besides the occasional wonder waff. It's ludicrous. To play that map as solo is to be complacent with a shitty game that has zero regard for the type of player you are. Black Ops 3 tried correcting this whole issue of shitty weapons, I guess by making all the weapons have alternate ammo type upgrades, which are each overpowered in their own right. But the problem here is that almost all weapons, including wall weapons, are capable of doing the same thing. So they went to the other end of the spectrum, and any sort of strategy is removed once again. There's no strategy involved like in most other games when you think about it. You might not have noticed this problem, but your brain did. But it doesn't need to be this way. I don't play a lot of other zombie games, but I have played that Zombie Army Trilogy game. It's not a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but there's actually some sense to the way things work in it. In the Horde mode, instead of increasing the health of the zombies to ridiculous levels as the waves progress, it instead just adds different zombie types and increases the number of them slightly as waves progress. You'll have like a shitload of regular zombie types, and they're pretty easy to take out. But if you don't give them enough attention, they can down you pretty easily too, especially when playing on a harder difficulty. But then they sprinkle in some machine gun wielding zombies. Now these guys have a lot of health, but there's only 1 to 4 of them at once, and they're pretty slow, but the maps are claustrophobic and it's easy to get cornered, so you'll keep running into them, and you'll have to use the whole map if you want to survive. And there's different approaches to take too, strategy if you will. You could use a machine gun to drop those pesky fire zombies like Bad Habits, or you could use a shotgun, which is good for close range engagements with the regular zombie types. Or you could decide to use a sniper to shoot the head of the MG dudes from a distance, or to take out those zombie snipers. Then there's a couple of wonder weapons if you will, like the Preacher shotgun, which is the best gun in the game, but it has limited ammo that can't be replenished very often. So you need to use your shots very wisely. Even the pistol in the game is great. It drops most of the zombies in one hit, but the reload time is the drawback here. Point being, all the guns in the game have a purpose, and cater to different strategies, as they come with both pros and cons that can be used to combat a variety of different enemy types. For the most part, Nazi Zombies just has regular zombie types, with a choke of a boss round sprinkled in, and occasionally a tough cookie that spawns in. A tough cookie like the astronaut on the moon, who has such ridiculous health that players just glitch him out and don't think twice about it. You could look at COD itself to see a game mode that works. Dead Ops Arcade 1 and 2 have zombies that get stronger as the rounds progress, but they never get too strong. Your starting LMG might not be the best point maker, but it at least works, along with all the other weapons and item pickups. Every time you pick up something, you feel that it's actually helping you fend off the zombie intrusion and keeping them back. You're able to run and gun, whereas in zombies, you need to group them up because there's no weapons capable of killing them as soon as they're coming out of their spawns. When you gather them together, it just reminds me of a shepherd trying to gather his flock. Just gathering the sheep innocently, then quietly blasting them away with a shot of thunder gun or burning them to a crisp and then repeating the process. Number 10. The issue of clickbait and RelaxingEnd's face. Clickbait is a major issue that plagues the internet as a whole, whether it's YouTube, Twitch TV, an article on a news site, or whatever. So I'm not going to waste too much time talking about how ridiculous it is. After all, I'm a busy man with responsibilities, like taking care of my cat. But on second thought, maybe people aren't as enlightened as I thought they are, since millions of people subscribe to shitty YouTubers with shitty content and shitty clickbait titles. I mean, just look at some of these titles. Why can't they just be forthcoming, like this Phantasm remix video? After reading the title, I know that it's some shitty remix, so as a result I'm not going to click on it. But someone who was interested would click on it and get exactly what was advertised. With Drifter's video, the title is short and concise, and I know what I'm going to get with it. But then these two fools upload videos with identical starting words, which so conveniently stop right before it reveals that it's not gameplay, but gameplay trailer. You know, a standard gameplay trailer that doesn't show more than 2 seconds of gameplay at a time? Yeah, that kind of gameplay. Gameplay trailer. And there's also a misleading thumbnail for good measure. And nobody even drops hella dislikes for being duped. I guess they're used to it by this point. Another person I want to talk about was the RelaxingEnd.
This roast of him is a long time coming since he blocked communications with me on Xbox nearly 6 years ago. Now, I have a certain admiration for him because I like his gloves. I mean, because of his early roots as being one of the best high-round players back in the day. Best. Took strides in developing strategies that many people ripped off and made derivatives of those strats for years on end later on, only for those same people to talk trash on him for being washed after he developed a large following and no longer had to waste his time playing 20-hour games. So I won't rip on him for that. But some people are under some sort of impression that he's a good content creator. This is entirely false. He's a good horseshit creator, in the sense that he uploads the same kinds of videos but manages to mask them as different things. It seems like an assembly line of videos that he just checks off the list once he's done doing them. You have your custom zombie videos, you got your usual hyperbole like Keepers are now zombies, Transit Remastered coming to BO3 Zombies. We interrupt this broadcast for a brief message. We'd like to thank everyone who appeared at PlayStation Experience 2016 last month. Unfortunately, only 2 of you showed up, but it was fun nonetheless. This message is brought to you by Crunchyroll. Use code Rothstein for a free 30-day trial, and the opportunity to watch some great titles like Cowboy Bebop and Naruto. What the hell is Naruto? Is that some kind of spicy noodle? Oh no, 'cause noodles give me gas. Spicy Chinese noodles usually come out of my butthole like a Play-Doh factory. Usually just seconds after I eat it. Is that why they call it Panda Express? Anyways, back to the broadcast. RelaxingEnd has a bunch of videos where he plays the same games but in different languages. Then the occasional unboxing with a box cutter and some gloves. Then you got the throwbacks to Infected Mode, or Grief Sessions, or casual zombie gameplay. Maybe I should give the bastard a break since there's only so much you could upload with a game like COD Zombies. On another note, part of his act is that he never talks or showed his face, yet ended up with over 1 million subscribers. He even claimed this falsity himself, despite having dozens of commentaries on his channel, and willingly shown his face on multiple occasions. But the extent which he goes through to maintain this illusion which is already broken is pretty funny. Making sure that other people don't broadcast his voice when he plays with them in Zombies, to covering his face when other YouTubers are doing vlogs at gaming events, to dressing up with self-covering his face at events. It's a tired act, my dude. But uploading the same shit over and over again is not the only thing he's good at. He's also pretty good at playing the ukulele for some cash money. Number 11. Conclusion. I used to really enjoy playing Zombies as a youngster. I remember playing DLCs as soon as they came out, talking with other community members, trying to get a better round than my friends, talking about it at school, on the phone, at the club, wherever. But the novelty of it has worn off. It's a tired act. Repetitive nonsense which no longer resembles the original product which caused many of us to know and love it in the first place. On a side note, I always find it funny when post-millennials will try to tell me that Black Ops 2 is their favorite zombie game. That's of course because that's the game they first started with. The Treyarch zombie maps have become more complicated, convoluted, and overall stale as time has progressed. Not that Black Ops 1 maps of World of War are video game masterpieces by any stretch of the imagination, but they offered what they advertised, some good old-fashioned mindless fun. And if you wanted to take it to the next level and be a hardcore player, it was a new experience that you probably didn't have in many other games at the time. Now these newer maps are just mindless, but not fun at all. Can Treyarch correct the course? I don't think so. They're too far gone in the direction of including as much shit as possible in an effort to appease the general masses, who have come to expect all the pseudo-intricacies that Zombies has been offering. This is also a problem with the Call of Duty franchise as a whole. They aren't going to go back to the basics of Modern Warfare 1, or go bare bones on customization like Battlefield 1. They have gone all in on the jackpot and will continue to do so, even if their sales decrease a bit. Don't be surprised to see World of War Remastered in 2018 to accompany the next Treyarch title. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, now I'd like to discuss further...
Rothstein, open up. We have a warrant for your arrest.
It's the feds, hold on.
Break down the door.
Oh cripes, they're breaking down the door. Hold on, I gotta get my gat. Stay back, coppers, I'm packing heat.
Drop the weapon. Drop the weapon. Return fire. Return fire.
Eat lead.
Requesting backup. Requesting backup. We have an officer down. I repeat, officer down.
Eat lead, commies. Take that. Get out of my house. Get out of my creepy house. Don't go in my basement either. I've been hit.